Hello everyone, my name is Blaine Pearson and I'm a graduate instructor in Texas Tech's Personal Financial Planning program. In this video, we're going to look at the difference between a variable and a fixed expense. Let's begin this presentation by first defining and looking at what a variable and a fixed expense is. Now, fixed expense, think of it as the title implies. This thing is fixed. So you have an expense that is fixed, it is not changing. Whereas a variable expense is something that can change. So let's look at some examples of a fixed expense. So a fixed expense could include rent or mortgage payment. And this is a fixed expense because your rent does not change. It is the same amount every single month. Cable and television typically does not change and is therefore a fixed expense. Anything that we can budget that is going to be the same amount every single month, week, etc. is what we would define as fixed. Insurance premiums do not change. The amount you pay for your homeowner's insurance or your car insurance is a fixed expense and does not change. A variable expense is something that does change. So this could be something like dry cleaning. So some individuals may wear suits regularly and some may not. And if you're one of those that do not wear suits regularly, you may not need to go to the dry cleaners as much. So this expense is considered variable. Electricity is also considered variable. So electricity varies from month to month. Here in Texas, in July and August, electricity is very expensive compared to February and March because of the AC. So every month this is changing, right? So variable, it changes. And recreation expenses. So during the summer again, there is a lot more free time, so more money is typically spent on recreation. Eating out is also another variable expense. Now, one thing I do want to distinguish and make note of is the difference between necessary and discretionary. So necessary expense is something that is absolutely you have to have it. So a necessary expense is rent. You have to have a roof over your head. That is a necessary expense. Electricity is a necessary expense. It is a necessary variable expense, just like rent is a necessary fixed expense. Insurance is a necessary fixed expense. Now let's take a look at discretionary. Now discretionary expenses are expenses that we have disposable income that we can utilize and we can spend it how we want. So cable television is a discretionary fixed expense. Recreation is a discretionary variable expense. Eating out is a discretionary variable expense. So you can have an expense that is necessary and discretionary that is fixed, and you can have a variable expense that is necessary or discretionary as well. You cannot have a necessary and discretionary expense. That is a big time no. And you can definitely not have an expense that is fixed and variable. Again, this is Blaine Pearson, and in this video, we cover the difference between a variable and a fixed expense.